It didn't look like the kind of place where illegal weapons would be stashed. A smallish brick house with a chipped iron security gate positioned between two windows like a rusty nose. There was a neat little garden gate which opened with a creak. Some untidy shrubs lined the outside of the concrete wall. The security grille swung open. Expectantly, I went in. The house was dark, with heavy velveteen curtains covering the windows. There was a white lace doily cloth covering the table, the kind that all respectable South African lower-middle-class houses had, at least in the 1970s. It was the sort of place where you would expect to find a lonely old lady sitting in the corner, watching TV maybe, waiting in vain for her grandchildren to visit. This was a gang safe house. Our man emerged out of the shadows in the back. He had a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. It was not his house. He didn't look like the lace doily type. The agreement we had was a simple one. He would show me something, just for the record. I would take a look, then leave. Usually I like to talk about things with people like the man in the baseball cap, but that hadn't been part of the deal. Showing and talking were clearly different transactions. After a brief nod between us, Baseball Cap reached behind his back and produced the gun with a kind of sweeping motion that bank robbers in the movies use, both arms coming forward like a butterfly stroke, the weapon in his right hand, then both hands coming together, elbows slightly bent, gun pointing forward and down. He snorted under the cap, a flash of gold teeth. Then he handed me the piece. We had not said a word to each other. The gun was a Z88, a 9mm pistol. It sat heavily in my hand, dull and black. I weighed it up and drew a bead on the wall of his house, squinting down the sights in the gloom at a space between a flowery poster and a painting depicting the Cape Mountains. I had wanted to check how the gun had been tampered with, but the light was too dim, and the owner was glaring at me. I cupped the gun in both hands, looked at it as closely as I could. Then, feeling self-conscious and not knowing what else to do, I gave it back to him. He took it, nodded approvingly, and then paddled off to a back room to pack it away. By that point, I had spent 3 years talking to people about how guns that were the property of the South African state had leaked into the hands of criminals. Most had been willing to talk, but few had been eager to show me their guns. Over the years I had glimpsed plenty of Z88s. There had been furtive gestures to a barrel poking out from a straining belt, or someone pointing out a police officer's holstered gun. But until my meeting at the safe house, I'd never held the gun in my hand. Several gun dealers had also shown me their Z88s. In one case, I got to see one of the earliest models, complete with its wooden box and bronze plate engraved in Afrikaans, commemorating its production, like flotsam from a forgotten era. The gangster's gun, in contrast, seemed all too real life.